Hello everyone, and welcome to another Digimon Ghost Game review video. This time I'm going to be giving my quick thoughts of today's episode, which is episode 30, Bad Friend. So in this episode, we have a girl who's lonely, and two Digimon, Tyrannomon and Warumonzemon, kind of cheer her up and start hanging out with her. Unfortunately, they also turn everyone who even slightly annoys her into a doll, which she ends up collecting. And they're also very scary, creepy looking dolls that she makes. They're not just normal dolls or just like the dolls that Piedmon made of the Digimon Adventure children in the first season. These are like soulless, scary eyes, like gothic looking, terrifying dolls. They're not happy looking dolls. They're just, I would say it's nightmare fuel. So, all these people are becoming dolls, including Kyoshia and Jellymon, but the rest of the group are able to kind of corner Warumonzemon and Tyrannomon, and with the help of a Monzemon, they're able to kind of subdue them and turn everyone back to normal. Now, this episode's kind of a hard one to kind of rate, because on one hand, it is very creepy in the best way. It also makes you feel angry towards the little girl, as well as kind of sympathetic. She is lonely. She feels like all her friends have abandoned her because they started hanging out with Ruri. So she feels like she's lost all these childhood friends that she had because they're all hanging out with Ruri. But then we have quite an emotional moment when Warumonzemon and Tyrannomon are revealed to be using her because Monzemon's saying, hey, it's not you. They've kind of been using you, but also you kind of have been making it worse for yourself by having the reaction of shutting yourself in rather than trying to go out and make friends. She's kind of shut herself in by that. Unfortunately, this episode does suffer from the ghost game problem in the way that it kind of has all this creepy build-up, but then the end of the episode is kind of, everything is fixed far too easily with Monzemon's attack, which appears to just turn Tyrannomon and Warumonzemon good. It feels very anticlimactic, and it's very much in line with a lot of ghost game episodes, because you spent so much time on the build-up and so much time setting the scene that when you actually have to resolve the episode, because Ghost Game being episodic, each episode is self-contained and each episode is resolved by the end of it. And each episode being 20 minutes means that you don't have much time to both tell a story and also resolve that story and resolve any issue in the episode. So it kind of hurts this episode. This episode would definitely be a perfect episode, but the end part just feels very rushed. Tyrannomon and Warumonzemon, are they always bad? Are they just mischievous? When Monzemon captures them in his pink bubbles, they seem to imply that this has happened before and they got caught again. So they kind of just do that all the time and they just become evil, I guess. But their expressions do go from like scary to bright-eyed and positive. So it is kind of weird there. It felt like they had to resolve it very quickly. They only had a few minutes to do so, and they ended up doing it far quicker. As with a lot of the Ghost Game episodes, the episode itself was really good. But again, that the last few minutes feels rushed. As soon as they had to battle, it went very quickly. We have Gamamon evolving for no reason. They basically evolved just to point out that there's a time limit or some kind of limit for Canon Weissmon, and then Monzemon does his attack and ends the battle. I'm not quite sure why the evolution was necessary, because it was for about 3 seconds because Monzemon ended the fight. It honestly could have... I know that they just needed to address the fact that the limit exists, but it felt like they could have just as easily had everyone turned into dolls, because Ruri and Angoramon were also turned into dolls during this fight. They could have also just turned Hiro and Gammamon into dolls, but they had to have him evolve to point out the limit. It felt like a weird use of time. They're time pressed, but him evolving changed nothing, and I guess they just needed a survivor from the episode. We couldn't just have everyone turn into dolls and not remember what happened. I don't know. It just felt kind of weird, but overall this episode was quite good. It was very scary. It was probably up there with all the other really scary episodes. It had a good atmosphere that was creepy. The dolls were very creepy. The setting was creepy. Keanu herself was incredibly creepy. So it did have that going for it, but at the end of the episode, Ghost Game being Ghost Game, it felt rather rushed. But overall, I liked the episode. I liked the funny bit of Keanu didn't like Kyoshiro's hair, so she unstitched the doll and gave him an afro. And despite the fact that later on we have Keanu and Hiro sewing the dolls together, Kiyoshiro, when he turns back to normal, still has an afro. It's kind of a funny moment. I do appreciate that. I don't know why it wasn't just fixed. I know that he'll be back to normal next episode, but that's kind of a funny little bit. So, yeah, this episode was really good. One of the stronger episodes. But again, like, I know a lot of people have the problem of Ghost Game being episodic because it means there's not as much plot as with the other seasons of Digimon, which are quite plot heavy. This series being episodic doesn't bother me for that reason. It bothers me but the fact that each episode needs to be wrapped up and also tell really in-depth, good quality stories. And they fail to really wrap up most episodes really well because they're so strapped for time. But I'm a broken record at that point. I say that probably basically every week. So yeah, this episode, it's kind of a hard one to rate because it's got a lot of good things, and it would be perfect if it wasn't a 20-minute long episode. But on the other hand, the ending just falls flat for me, and I'm not really sure why. However, I did come out of it thinking, wow, I feel rubbish after watching that episode. Like, I didn't feel good after watching it. And I was like, is it a bad episode? No, it's not. It actually made me feel something. And something I've mentioned a few times, I think the last time was in the Ajaitaramon episode, where I felt kind of crappy afterwards. And that's because it made me feel something. I felt bad for the Digimon. I felt bad for the Mon of the Week. I just felt sad. And this episode kind of also made me feel sad, even though it did turn out that she did have friends. She was just kind of being jealous. I did kind of feel sad for the character in that way, and it was kind of like a sad episode, but still very creepy. But in any case, those are my thoughts about this episode. Again, it's kind of one of those hard ones to rate. I am also really enjoying the fact that we have Mons of the Week and we also have the Human of the Week, where it may be a human who is for some reason either impacting a Digimon or being impacted by a Digimon or controlled by a Digimon. And we've had quite a few of that now. It is something that we see a lot in Young Hunters, but I feel like Ghost Game is doing a better job of it. And I guess it's also scarier in Ghost Game, and the Digimon come across as being extremely scary. However, my main highlight, of course, is the fact that we get X-Tyrannomon in this episode, because this is a Digimon who has been around since effectively the start of the franchise, was from the version 5 Digimon Original Virtual Pet, and hasn't really shown up much since in any of the anime. So that's about it. It's been around forever, but hasn't really shown up. So that's a really great Digimon to appear, and I'm really happy that we can finally talk about X-Tyrannomon, because it's been so long that we've had this gorgeous design. It's a scary little dinosaur costume with a demon inside it. I don't know. But yeah, it's very good that we got that in the anime finally. Yeah, this episode kind of a weird one to rate because it's it feels like it needs to be longer. It needs just maybe 10 minutes longer, and I feel like that'd be perfect. Even 5 minutes, I feel like that extra time could really benefit from this episode could benefit from it, and I feel like a lot of Ghost Game could. But in any case, those are my thoughts on episode 30. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Stay tuned for the podcast, which I'm going to be recording shortly after this video, and then uploading the normal time and place as I do every week. So check that out. So subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, and of course, I'll see you on the next one. Bye!